I think there are a lot of bad, poorly run volunteer programs out there. I think volunteerism, everyone intuitively knows it's a good thing and that it's a good practice, and probably even that it would help steward our current donors and our future donors. But very few organizations are investing in the infrastructure to allow for good volunteer projects. So what you end up with is, oh my goodness, the newsletter needs to go out next week. Let's get some volunteers in here to do that. Well, for most people, folding and stuffing a newsletter is not a rewarding volunteer experience. And oftentimes, really you only need one or two people, so it's not even a great social experience, and probably because it was not thoughtfully designed. There's nobody from the agency even there to explain why this newsletter is important to the organization. So I think, and you can sort of extrapolate different experiences from that create a bad volunteer program. And in my experience, people who have one bad volunteer experience, they're not going to come back, and they're certainly not going to give you money. And yet a good volunteer experience that could be an equally laborious task as assembling the newsletter, that is done in a group where people get a chance to interact, that is done with the direction of someone from the organization who can really talk about, we use this in this way that really serves the mission of our organization, and then engages with people on, these are new trends that are happening, these are great successes that we've had, or here's a chance to meet one of our clients, kind of thing. Really gives people, like, it doesn't really matter what activity they have done. They feel very compelled by the work of the organization.
Most of the time it's up to you to engage volunteers. It depends on what type of volunteer they are. If they are volunteer board or committee member, obviously they already have that connection and they're on site or they're attending meetings, but I think it's important to engage them and ask them what they're looking for. So making sure that you're asking what kind of involvement would they like to be involved in. So other than maybe their board position or committee position, would they like to be involved in speaking on our behalf? At an event, would they serve as a greeter, as a steward of the event? Just slowly get them involved, but making sure you ask them how they would like to be involved. We have volunteers that are fabulous at emails. They will email anybody, and it makes sense because it's coming from another donor, another volunteer, rather than coming from a staff person. So when an individual receives an email or a letter from a volunteer, it means a lot more than coming from a staff person, because they say, oh, this is a volunteer speaking on behalf of the organization. So giving them the tools to do that by asking them, would you be willing to email? Would you be willing to make a phone call? Would you come to an event and be a table captain? So there's a lot of small steps that you can kind of take them on a journey based on what they want to do.
I think one of the trends in volunteerism right now, and one of the ways I think we as nonprofit leaders could actually do a better job of engaging different types of volunteers, is in this, what we like to call skill-based volunteers. So using your professional skills to help an organization. And I think within that, there is a couple of great opportunities. One, most of us can't actually afford the type of strategic planning or creative design or financial strategist that we would like. So using volunteers in those roles can provide a really expanded and much more sophisticated way to do our work. And oftentimes, I think some people just feel more comfortable using their professional skills. So I would really encourage folks to think about, if we had an unlimited amount of resources, what would we want? And then think about, could we use volunteers in this way? Instead of, what I think happens is oftentimes, especially from a management perspective, we're not experts in these things, but we can sort of get by. And instead we push those volunteer activities to sort of the lowest common denominator, instead of, well, let's invest in some of our frontline activities and just pay for them and use higher level or higher skilled volunteers for some of those other areas of need that we have.